Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamotus. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have, for Ichor Fall, a double feature.
If we don't talk about either of them for an excessively long amount of time.
I mean, okay.
Weirder things have happened.
Fair.
Please continue.
The Damp Lady and Wolves of the Stillwood. So, yeah, we're doing... assuming I don't have to, future me doesn't have to cut all this shit out, or like. You
want to redo the intro where I don't interrupt you? I can chime in after and not fucking up like
hello.
Not that far.
So, yeah, we originally were going to do the Damp Lady and just the Damp Lady. However, that sounded wrong.
Phrasing.
Yeah. But the story was very short. So we figured we'd find another short one on the submitted page for Ichor Fall and do sort of a double feature, just so we had, this wasn't going to be like 15 minutes.
You never know. Weirder things have happened. We might talk about this for 2 hours.
That's true. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So, so we're gonna start off with the Damp Lady. It's by possibly Tim. A person named Tim. Unfortunately, on the site, it just says it's posted by the admin. However, according to one of the commenters underneath the story, they reference Tim as the potential author of the story. So, yeah, got to credit those authors of these stories. But I digress. You can check it out at Ichor Falls, the website, under the submitted stories. And we'll just kind of dive into the rundown now. So this is a cautionary story told to bratty children who won't eat their vegetables and is reprinted from a document by a Miskatonic University member about folklore in Ichor Falls. In the story, a prince refuses to eat his green and purple fish, and later that night, he begins having a dream where the fish looms over his bed, telling him that he'll have it one way or another. Years later, that prince becomes a king and brings home a wife who is damp all the time and has unblinking eyes and wears green and purple. You can kind of see where this is going. Upon being married, there is a scream, and when people check the royal bedroom that night, the king is found insane in his bed, and there is a green and purple fish on the pillow next to him. The child this story is then told to eat his greens, or the Damp Lady will come for you next. And that's basically the story. It's a very short and sweet, like cautionary folk tale told to bratty children about in Ichor Falls, and is somewhat related to apparently like the Ethelore summer and how it affected folklore in Ichor Falls, apparently. So,
just to be clear, when it was discovered that there's a fish next to him, it said he was mad.
Which
it could
insane.
That could just mean angry, though.
This is why I put insane,
grumble.
because I fucking hate the English language, and I knew that you would immediately think that, like, oh no, he's just mad, he's angry.
Honestly, me reading it, I thought he was just angry. He's like, God damn it, and he has to figure out what the hell's going on.
No.
I didn't immediately go to insanity.
I always assume insanity.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, that's the rundown for the story. Turns out the king married a fish because he refused to eat that fish when he was a kid.
Seems legit.
Yeah. So I suppose we'll move on to everyone tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions at this point. And I have one. So Hiram Whippoorwill, Miskatonic University Press. So now this might be just the way the last name is spelled. Since names have any number of ways to be spelled, but ignoring that fact,
Are you grammar positioning someone's name?
I am, because it bugged me.
Wow.
Whippoorwill is spelled so. Hiram Whippoorwill in the story, like what's quoted, is Whipporwill. The proper spelling for whippoorwill, at least the name of the bird that it comes from, or that the name stems from, is Whippoorwill. And I have a little bit more about the whippoorwill situation later in my actual thoughts. But yeah, it's a nitpick. It's a super nitpick, and I'm not going to stand here and declare that like there's any right way to say somebody's last name, because literally I've heard names that have like last names that have been spelled so bizarrely, but like that's just how it's evolved as it's gone on through the ages. So that's how language works. I understand that. I wanted to, in case this wasn't a typo or something, I just wanted to clarify.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But after that, I actually have here in my note. I have one thing in my notes. Leave the conjunction junction to Mikey. The E stands for evil. Okay. So I'm going to surrender the grammar position to Mikey.
All right. So yeah, I have a conjunction junction, as you know.
Mm-hmm. And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
And one day there was a fish for dinner, and the fish on the prince's plate was green and purple, and the prince wouldn't eat it because he said it looked nasty. But that night the prince woke up screaming, saying he dreamed that a huge green and purple fish stood over his bed and said, "You'll have me, brat, one way or another." And every year, on the anniversary of not eating his fish, he dreamed the same terrible dream. And the king married her. And the night after they married, there was a terrible scream from the royal bedroom. And they found the king lying in the big royal bed completely mad. And the damp lady was nowhere to be seen, but on the pillow beside the king was a little green and purple fish. And the king was mad for the rest of his life. And if you don't eat your greens now, you little creep. Finn.
So you literally just read the story, basically.
You almost read the entire story. Yeah, no. There's a reason I was like, leave conjunction junction, because I was reading like, wow.
Yeah, when you skim over it, and the start of 3 out of the 4 paragraphs start with "and," it's like,
Yep.
Yeah. And that last sentence, the next sentence continues it, but it doesn't start with one of the conjunction junction words I use, so it wasn't included, so it doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
Yeah, which means that sentence in itself is not put together correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that Mikey does the conjunction junction and such is to highlight all the sentences in the story that start with words that they shouldn't, like ands, buts, and stuff like that. Because there's always better words.
Indeed. So, is that your grammar position then, Mikey?
Yes.
All right. Gamer.
Okay. This first one was a bit of a run-on. Once upon a time, you brat, there was a spoiled little prince who wouldn't eat his dinner if he didn't want to, and no one could make him because he was a prince. That's all one sentence, comma out 3 times.
Yeah.
So it's like it's kind of on the fence of being a run-on. I took
Because
really
there's
long
breaks
breaks.
with
Yeah,
commas.
I took really long breaks on each one though, so it kind of seemed easier. They were almost like periods. The way I did was just I flipped it around a little bit too. The way I rewrote it too. Once upon a time, you brat, there was a spoiled little prince who wouldn't eat his dinner. Period. No one could make him if he didn't want to because he's a prince. The whole like if he didn't want to was in an odd location before, so I shifted it toward the end. This next one, it does have a front and. That's not the reason it's here though. It also has a useless comma, and the split of it is weird. And one day there was a fish for dinner, and the fish on the prince's plate was green and purple, comma, and the prince wouldn't eat it because he said it looked nasty. There's two commas in between there. I didn't say the first one. But the useless comma is the first one, where it's and one day, comma, there was a fish for dinner, where that could just be one day there was a fish for dinner, then comma that, and the fish on the prince's plate was green and purple, period. And then move on from that to the prince wouldn't eat it because he said it looked nasty. I don't know why I keep saying nasty like nasty.
I was just saying, like, you're like, Nevada.
Yeah, certain words I just put weird accents on lately. I don't know why.
Have you
Just
been watching a lot of
words.
American like TV or something?
No, not that I'm aware of. Am I still Canadian? A boot.
Oh,
A boot.
to be
Yes,
fair,
I'm
like
Canadian.
the A is kind of Canadian. I think I've heard that with Canadian, the Canadian accent, like the overpowering Canadian accent. So,
Or I just like saying words funny.
that's fair.
Either way, moving on. Next one, what did I do with this? It's a run-on. And I wrote combine at the start of it. I don't know why. And the night after they married, there was a terrible scream from the royal bedroom, comma, and they found the king laying in the big royal bed, completely mad, comma, and the damp lady was nowhere to be seen, but on the pillow beside the king was a little green and purple fish. So that's like all one sentence commented a couple times.
Oh Jesus, right? Yeah, holy crap.
So front and gone, capitalize the T on the, and then the break I put in after him being angry / insane, who knows? Where the original was. I know.
Sorry, I don't mean to. I don't want to fight you. It's just like it's a knee jerk reaction. It's like, nope,
But it's not. Yeah, I know. I get it. He could be angry for the rest of his life. You don't know.
Sure.
That's how like tyrannical
be
like
mildly
overlords
irate.
show up. Yeah. Either way, the original is, and they found the king laying in the big royal bed, completely mad, comma, and the damp lady was nowhere to be seen. Blah 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 blah. But if you just put a period at completely mad, and then just continue, remove the and just continue writing with completely mad period, the damp lady was nowhere to be seen. Blah 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 blah.
Honestly, actually, another thing I might fix is like that first sentence there, like that with like the correction for it. Yeah, so the night after they married, there was a terrible scream from the royal bedroom, comma, where they found the king lying in the big royal bed, completely mad. Period.
Yes, that is more better. Because there are a lot of ands.
Yeah,
I know words.
Mm-hmm.
We English good here.
Yeah, that's true statement.
Yeah, sure, why not?
I say with a question mark.
Mm-hmm. Either way, that's the end of my grammar in yellow.
Okay, so on to actual thoughts. Going to start with this sentence here. But that night, the prince woke up screaming, saying he dreamed that a huge green and purple fish stood over his bed and said, "You'll have me, brat, one way or another." And my mind immediately went, "Oh no." Phrasing a little bit. And then, next one. And every year on the anniversary of not eating his fish, he dreamed the same terrible dream. One day when he was king, he came home from holiday with his sweetheart and said he was going to marry her. Yeah, that's kind of where I saw this was going, like right from the dream sequence onto this. Like given the threat that happened, is like, you'll have me one way or another. It's like,
Oh, because you went like sexual with it?
yeah, because I get, like, I'm sorry, like, it's just the way that it says, like, you'll have me, brat, one way or another. Like,
Well, when you're eating your food, you're having dinner.
Listen, I'm not gonna kink shame, but but yeah, no, I saw like that like especially as Susie, like, oh, his childhood, or like, not his childhood sweetheart, his technically his childhood sweetheart.
You're not wrong.
But yeah, Susie brought home a sweetheart, and they were gonna marry, and like, it's like, oh, this story is gonna end up with her being, and especially when it continued to describe his sweetheart as damp constantly and like bulging eyes. It's like, he brought home a fish lady. Which I actually find very
to the fish.
Yeah.
Love to the fish.
Well, you know what? This actually is a good segue to my next quote and comments. So at the very end of the story, this like childhood like story that we get, we find out that it is a reprinted with permission from Ethelor Voices, effects on phenolic toxicity. In our city. Effects of phenolic toxicity on the folkloric imagination in Ichor Falls, Mason County. And that is from Hiram Whippoorwill, Miskatonic University Press, 2007. So I thought this was very interesting that this story is an Ichor Falls tale and applies a Cthulhu mythos connection. Because like Miskatonic University is straight up the penultimate, like one of the penultimate locations in Lovecraft country. Like in the Cthulhu mythos, Miskatonic River Valley is a made up county in Massachusetts that Lovecraft put a shit ton of towns, like spooky fictional towns, in. And Miskatonic University is his like penultimate like academic establishment. Like next to basically like next to Arkham. It's basically like the penultimate like penultimate like Cthulhu mythos related like location. And there's also other things like the use of the name of the author. I'm not sure if this was intentional or not, but so whippoorwills are a bird found in New England, and in folklore in New England, it's often considered a psychopomp or like a reaper of souls, sort of like the Grim Reaper, or like basically a ferryman of souls. I think like the old like story is like when you hear their calls, it's usually when somebody is like on their deathbed, and when they stop calling, when they stopped like singing their song, that's when the person usually dies, and it means that like the whippoorwills are ferrying the soul to the underworld. And it actually comes up as with that exact sort of situation in one of the Lovecraft stories entitled "The Dunwich Horror," where like a character dies and the whippoorwills can be heard in the distance, and like their whippoorwill call is like, I don't know if I'll be able to whistle this properly or if it'll even like pick up, but
I think your phone just went off.
Yeah, no, that's but yeah, so the other thing I just realized is like, yeah, like the story, the story itself, like the Damp Lady herself could be a nod to like Deep Ones. Like while he was on, like when he came home from holiday from Innsmouth, he brought home his sweetheart from Innsmouth, one of those Innsmouth girls. Completely damp and bulging wide eyes and dressed in green and purple, turned into a fish. Yeah, so I thought that was an interesting, like, sort of way of connecting the Ichor Falls stories, like setting it in the same world as like the Cthulhu mythos. Because it wouldn't be such a hard pull to like throw this into like the Cthulhu mythos, like for a campaign or something. Like your investigators go to Ichor Falls from like a Cthulhu game.
Yeah.
Also, it's an interesting mention of the Ethelor connection, like at the end there, like since Ichor Falls has a bunch of their historical tragedies and issues revolving around the Ethelor chemical spill, or the Ethelor summer, where that ultimately like killed and like made a lot of people sick in the town. It's actually one of the reasons why like the town was like a ghost town for so long.
Was there a story specifically about that?
Yeah, I believe so. If not like directly, like there was a couple of stories that mention the Ethelor Summer in the community guide compilation. But yeah, I don't fully understand. The other thing is though, like I don't fully understand the connection to the folklore. Like perhaps it's the green and purple fish thing. Like maybe people saw green and purple fish like in the river, like in the contaminated river as a result. Or maybe it's just like an old wives' tale that popped up around the time of the spill or the Ethelor Summer that like affected like maybe like why people like why you're not eating your greens. It's because they're contaminated, but like you have to eat them anyway. So it's almost like a tragic story because like they're being told to eat their greens when that's part of the reason they're getting sick because the food's contaminated.
Awesome.
But yeah, I thought that was I liked like I just wanted to take note of like that last little bit of the story. Like we get this little cautionary folk story that is told to kids who are being brats, and it has some kind of connection to not only Ichor Falls like contaminated past, but also possibly setting Ichor Falls in the Lovecraft mythos. So,
and the whole thing with Whippoorwill. As soon as I heard that, the only other time I've ever heard Whippoorwill is when the Game Grumps brought up a joke that a comedian brought up. I don't know the comedian, otherwise I would credit him. But basically, he brought up how there was a golf game going on, and it was kind of quiet. So on the show, they were piping in fake bird calls to make it seem more naturey and stuff. And some bird expert angrily called in, and he was basically saying, like, he called them out, saying that there's a bird there that shouldn't be there. And he was saying, like, are you telling me that the blue-crested whippoorwill decided to change its migratory path to enjoy a little bit of golf?
Oh my god, that is like that's a comment from our show.
Yeah,
like that's definitely like in line with one of our own comments.
For sure,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
That's good that I've seen Whippoorwill somewhere else now.
Yeah. And I've given you a little bit of more like history into like the use of the name and in conjunction with like fiction and nature. But that's the end of my actual thoughts for this one. So Mikey, D stands for evil.
So my actual thought for this is actually my biggest problem with this story.
Okay.
And that's the ending. I feel that the brat should be eating fish.
Right?
Because at the end, it's just spinach, and we're just talking about fish, so why isn't the story about a spinach monster?
Or like, maybe there could have been like some comments like, I don't care if it smells like fish, eat your damn spinach. I don't know. Like maybe like again, because again, to try and give some kind of example is like why there's a like maybe give like a connection between like the story being told and like the connection of like the chemical connection. It's making
I think it's basically like it's the same story just with different food. Is what the person telling the kid is saying. It's like this kid didn't want to eat something. It doesn't matter that it's not greens. He didn't want to eat it. And because of that, it made him insane. So if you don't eat this, even though it's different, it will also make you insane.
Yeah. The damp lady will come for you and assume the form of the spinach.
Yeah.
Or also like, it's like, now eat your greens. I don't care if there's spots of purple in it. But yeah.
Yeah. Like something simple as that would fix it. Like,
okay.
Purpley spinach or actually having a fish at the end, like something to sort of tie it other than saying greens and spinach. Like
I can kind of understand because like the end of the story did kind of leave me a little bit like, okay, like, well, that was an interesting read. like I got more like literally like as a result of my notes, I had more to say about the reprint with permission from Ethelor Voices like thing at the bottom, like the
The
reprint
notation
credit.
at the end.
Exactly, yeah, the notation, yeah, the anecdote.
There you go.
But I was also kind of left with a few questions like Ethelor Voices, like so I know like because again I know about the Ethelor Summer, and it's like the effects on of phenolic toxicity on folkloric imagination in Niagara Falls. That is a hell of an essay title, or a book title, depending on what exactly this document is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think some kind of connection because like I think that would be cool actually if the damp lady isn't always just a fish. It's just she changes herself dependent on the food that Brad isn't eating.
Yeah, that could be one way that it's swapped at the end instead of the narrator. I'm going to say the parent because I don't know the gender or nothing. The parent could change it saying instead of saying the damp lady will come, say like the green lady will come and turn you too. Now eat your spinach.
It could still be damp because like generally veggies are eaten steamed or like boiled and stuff like that, especially in like
I guess, but I'm trying to make it more spinachy.
I understand. Or like
Popeye will come and turn you mad.
Or what?
Popeye will come and turn you mad.
I
don't think that's a very good Popeye, but I can't.
I don't think it was. I don't. Yeah.
It does look like yuck kind of thing, right?
Yeah, he's like,
I can't do the way
barely,
he does it.
Yeah. But yeah, also like, or again, maybe like have like something like a quote afterward. It's like where this brat screamed into the night because he had a dream of like of a kelp looking lady. Or like just a figure in that was just like his spinach like made manifest over him. It's like you'll have me one way or another. And then like when he gets older, he becomes mayor of the town after and brings home his sweetheart, who's very like her hair's very like very like kind of kelpy and kind of flowing, but like in weirdly flowing like and green,
it's dyed green, quote unquote.
Exactly, yeah, and her like. Her skin complexion's very mottled, sort of like Brussels sprouts or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he screams in the night, and when they get to his room and they find that he's gone insane or is just pissed because there's just a pile of spinach on his on the opposite pillow where his sweetheart was.
It's like, damn it, honey, I told you I didn't want to eat spinach. Now, where'd you go? She just snuck out in the night because you won't eat spinach.
Yeah. Turns out she's a vegetarian.
Calling card. Yeah. Even calling cards like, this is why I left. And that's why he's so mad.
Yeah, clearly. And he will remain mad for the rest of his days.
Yeah, very angry.
So goddamn angry! Wow. So...
Did you have anything else to say, Mikey?
No, that was it.
Okay. That's the end of your actual thoughts?
Yep.
All right. So
I only have a couple myself.
Okay. Well, you have the floor, gamer.
I do. First one. Once upon a time, you brat. As soon as I read that, I'm like, whoa, easy now. I just started reading. Why are you targeting me here?
Hey now, you're a rock star.
Yeah.
Game on.
Yeah, I just felt that was kind of weird. It took me back for a second. Like,
apparently,
what the hell's going on here?
Apparently, there was a couple of commenters that commented about that too. Like they thought that the "you brat" part of this kind of pulled them out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that.
And my next one. She was very beautiful, but her skin and hair were always damp and all that. And it's talking about all that. And she wore green and purple all the time, never blinked. So my response to that is like, how blind is this king? Like,
he just like bring home a fish.
Like, I know it's a story meant to scare the kid, but like,
yeah.
How blind is he? She never blinks, and she's like always damp with like huge eyes, and yet she's still beautiful.
Seems pretty sus. I mean, again, I'm not going to like. You know what? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So, watch out for those
That's
eye
fair.
stalks before they, zap you with some kind of ray attack. Sorry, that was a D&D joke
Okay.
because of the beholders.
Nice.
But
I see.
yeah, I digress. Like again, I don't want to like king shame or like again, beauty is in the eye of any of the person. So it's like, yeah, different strokes for different folks, but it's still kind of sus.
Well, yeah, a little bit. Also, do beholders have eye stalks? I thought they're like cacodemons.
No, so beholders traditionally have like one central eye, and then they have a bunch of other like eye stalks that generally have different types of eyes on them, and because they all shoot different like ray attacks, like one of petrification, one of like ice beam, one of incinerate, sort of thing like that.
Okay, I thought they were just tentacles that came off of them.
Nope.
Gotcha. I learned a thing.
You did.
Yeah, that's about all I got for notes on the matter.
Okay. So I guess we'll move on to final thoughts for The Damp Lady. It's damn short, and I might have liked it a little bit. I might have liked a little bit more to it, like a bit more explanation regarding the Ethelor connection, like maybe even have like sort of a like an author's note about like the connection between this story and the Ethelor connection, rather than just like having that little like quotation or like addendum at the bottom, like showing like where this was pulled from and such.
It's making you more interested in the book that it came from than the story itself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'd like to know a little bit more about the connection to between like the Ethelor summer and its relation to local folklore and the bedtime stories of Ichor Falls. It's not terrible. Like it's a quick and easy to kind of get down. So I'm going to partially recommend it. But yeah, I kind of wanted some more. I wanted to know more about the connection. So that's my final thought is I partially recommend. Mikey, D stands for evil.
All right. Well, I'm not going to recommend it due to the ending and there not being a spinach monster. So
Fair. Valid point. All right.
So is it my turn?
Yeah, I guess it's your turn. Yeah, because Mikey is being rude and not telling you to go. No.
It's not being rude. It's fine. Is that actually everything you have to say, though?
Yep.
Okay, fair enough. For me, I'm also not going to recommend it. I personally don't really like the dynamic of the story. It kind of feels like it's basically like a rushed, angry story being told to some kid who doesn't want to eat spinach, and that's exactly what it is, and that's how it comes off reading it. We only see words from the narrator's side, so it, in a way, kind of makes me feel like that the narrator's saying all this while he's like locked in a padded cell, because there's no back and forth. It's just one way.
But that's also kind of like, because again, when you get to the end where there's like the quotation, it's basically this guy like listened to somebody like tell the story to him, and then he like put it down into his document about like the Ethelor folklore.
I'm curious
so
how many
sort of
times you've chimed in and said Ethelor every time.
It's a really fun word, all right?
It is. However, my point still stands because he still could have gotten that story from listening to a guy in a padded cell.
Oh, okay, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Like, there's no real back and forth. He's just talking to someone who's not there.
Fair.
So I would have appreciated a little bit of back and forth on it. It is in character, I guess, because it's just some parent making up a quick story on the spot to tell their picky child, but it comes off on the same level. It comes off on the same level of care as the story itself as a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if this was a 1-hour writing exercise, then okay. Because it just feels so rushed and it doesn't really go anywhere or take any risks or really do much, you know?
Yeah, I think it's too short to really kind of, and there's not enough here to really kind of, or there's definitely like threads that go elsewhere, but it's
not
too
really
short.
It's just the only threads that go elsewhere is the little printed thing at the end. But
that's what I mean. Like that's like I was more curious about that than the actual story.
That's what I'm saying. The meat and potatoes of the story. because you want to avoid your greens, of course. There's like nothing really there, and it doesn't really go anywhere. And there's no real tie. The tie to it is only in the notation at the end to Ichor Falls. Like, there's nothing in the story itself.
Yeah, it's a pretty generic. Honestly, yeah, it's a pretty generic childhood story, not like cautionary story. There's nothing in it that really. I mean, it's somewhat creepy, like it's childhood creepy, but at the same time, it's like I'm pretty sure I've heard this sort of like childhood, like bedtime story, like cautionary tale story, like a couple of times in different iterations, but it's always the same sort of like thing. Like,
yeah, it's a very baseline boogeyman's gonna get you if you don't do what I say situation.
Exactly, yeah.
You know? But because of that, it's not like the father is telling the son a cautionary tale of something that actually happened. That's not what it came across as. It came across as, I'm tired of you not eating your spinach. I'm making up a story on the spot to scare you so you'll eat your goddamn spinach. Yeah. And then, to me, that doesn't really add to the Ichor Falls lore and world very well.
Yeah, like the only context we get for that Ichor Falls thing is that bottom thing where that professor apparently like transcribed this story that was told to him for his essay or document. Like,
yes, but like, without having that document to have more context, it's just out there, like without any connecting ties to it, really.
Yeah, I think, 100%. Like without that bottom bit, that the story would like I'd be 100% not recommend. Actually, I think, like because that's the only thing that gives this entire story context, or like some semblance of context, not even full context, just like. This is reprinted from permission of the Ethelor Voices, blah, 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 and like documented. It's like, okay. So it gives you some kind of like context of like, okay, so this is a story that was derived around the time of the Ethelor summer in Ichor Falls. How? Like, why? Like you I want more. I want to know more about that. But it's too short for that. Yeah.
Yeah, as I said up front, I'm not recommending it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't really go anywhere or do anything.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, just to clarify my stance, I think my recommendation is only because of that last bit. Like, if that last bit wasn't there, I probably wouldn't recommend this either, because it'd be like, how does this connect to Ichor Falls? It's like, you can't just say it's like, oh, this is like I wrote this thing. Oh, this is from Ichor Falls because it was pulled from the time of the Ethelor chemical thing. There, I did it. It's connected.
Yeah, like it could have been made up
which
for
I feel
any
like
other reason.
Yeah, which I feel like we complained about, like, or we used like remember last session or last recording about the Blue Man, and like we were commenting, it's like, oh, all that story needed was like a little nod to Ichor Falls.
Yeah,
which this story did, and like it. I guess for this story, it wasn't enough.
Well, no, because the Blue Man story
was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, man, it makes us sound like assholes.
I know.
But it's just like it doesn't go anywhere. There's nothing really to draw you in or think about. It's a spooky story to tell a kid, and everything's there. There's nothing to really ask. It seems like it's not a real event that's happening. It's just something that the parent made up on the spot to scare their kids. Okay.
Yeah.
But it doesn't add to the lore because of that.
Yeah, it's just...
At least in my view, in my opinion.
It does kind of come across a little this is going to sound really bad. A little lazy. Because just like they made up this generic bedtime story cautionary tale thing, and then just slapped on a single, maybe one or two sentence connection at the very end as a quote, as in brackets. To kind of try and make it seem a little bit smarter, but it's at the end of the day, it's just a generic cautionary tale that has a single connection to the fact that it was from Ichor Falls.
You know what it needs? It needs probably the same amount of words in front of this story and behind it. Like, it needs some sort of a setup, This dude is compiling information on this sort of phenomena that's going on. There's been a couple of cases. Here's a case. Okay. Like, honestly, almost like an SCP, where there's the setup and then there's the incident reports. This would be an incident report, someone telling this story, and then something after that saying that it's this phenomena is on the loose and whatever,
So I think honestly what we need here is, so the end bracket bit, like the reprinted with permission, should be at the front, should be at the top. And then the story we get, like in quotes maybe, or like kind of like, again, because it's a transcript of something that from that book. And then an addendum piece by the author of the book, like, or like by the person, like it's like, this story came out in this year, or like this story started getting circulated around town in this year, around, and oddly enough, and like give a little bit more backstory behind the story.
Yeah, for sure.
At the end, like, yeah. So I think that might be like, maybe not just like a SCP style document, but like give us that, 'cause like I did in the rundown, like I straight up just told everybody, like, this is a reprint from this document.
Yes, I'll say this.
Guy.
I'll say this: the way you ran that down, the story came across way better than me reading it. Because me reading it, going in with nothing, it just sounded like a fairy tale is being told, because it's once upon a time. That's how it starts. You brat. Okay, so it's a parent telling a child a bedtime story, and he's not happy with the child.
Yeah.
So he's making it up on the spot. But you leading yours with the reprint stuff made your rundown come across a lot better.
Cool.
So that alone would fix it, just that little flip.
Yeah. So so either have the reprint part at the top, and maybe add an addendum at the end to give us a little bit more give us a reason why this is connected to Ichor Falls, not just like it was from Ichor Falls.
Yeah, it's in a book.
Yeah, it's in a book. Maybe you should read a book. Go to your local library in West Virginia. See if you can find this. But all right, so I think ultimately it's like barely a recommendation out of the three of us. Like barely one recommendation, or not even a recommendation, like half a recommendation, like partial recommendation.
You gave it a partial, and Mike and I did not recommend it.
So 0.5 out of 3.
There you go.
Yeah. And with that, we will move on to Wolves of the Stillwood. So this one is by Andrew VanOrden, according to its posting on Creepypasta.wiki, which I actually found out. Because again, on the Ichor Falls site, it's just posted by the admin, and they don't actually credit the author. Okay. Let's go down to the rundown here. So there are no wolves in the Stillwood. This verse is repeated several times between paragraphs by a local from Lower Aletheia in Ichor Falls, as they recount the strange disappearances in the Stillwood that occasionally happen and absolutely do not relate to any sightings of a large predatory creature lurking in the woods. Scout's honor, wink. Usually in these duplications, or no, in the course of these duplications of that verse between the paragraphs, a single word is italicized for a specific emphasis and meaning. By the end, we can conclude, according to Nair, there are no wolves in the Stillwood that are taking and killing those people.
Man, I hate italics.
Did you not get that?
Hell no. And that's hell, italicized hell.
Yeah. And the problem, like, the thing is, that's what saves this. Like, that's honestly what, like, makes this story for me. When I realize that there's an emphasis on a single word in every version of that sentence.
Damn it!
Because we're just like, why the fuck does it keep repeating this? This is stupid.
No, it's not that at all. But I'm just sad I missed the italics, because goddamn italics suck.
They're not italic enough.
Yeah. Shit needs to be at a 45-degree angle. That's the only way you can see it.
Or bolded.
Yeah, bold is the easy way.
Yeah. I was even like I can't I think even in one of my comments or something I just capitalize the word
Or underline.
yeah, or underline, yeah. Yeah, I just italics, like formatting in like the computer format of italics is the worst when it comes to trying to like emphasize, because some of us are blind, are internet blind or computer blind, so it's hard to see it sometimes.
Yeah, like if you go back and look at the previous one, then yeah, the in that one looks different than the in the second one.
Yeah, there
But
are.
that's only if you compare them. If you just read them and you're reading it normally, it's obviously easy to miss if you're an idiot, because I did it.
Yeah. We still love you. It's fine.
I'm sure. Anyways,
But yeah. So we'll move on to everyone tolerates the grammar inquisitions again.
Everyone still tolerates the grammar inquisition.
Yes. I was about to do it again, but no, I'm done. So I'm going to start with this one here. And should you see what cannot be polychrome eyes shining through the mists from the underbrush, or somehow in the branches above, or even through your gauze of your windows, should you be blessed enough to make it safely home, take what comfort you can in this thought. Okay, so I got a little bit of a bone to pick with this sentence.
Okay.
Aside from the front and, which Mikey, of course, will cover in his conjunction junction. Or even through your gauze of your windows. What the fuck does that mean? I think, yeah, curtains. It'd be like probably those, like, the gauze probably means those semi-transparent fabric curtains. But it's just such a weird way of saying it that it really bugged me. Also, the run-on nature of this sentence, because those were mostly commas in the story, and there's some commas missing, actually. It bugged me, so I rewrote the story. I rewrote this paragraph. So, and you'll note to exclude the and at the front. Should you see what can't possibly be polychromed eyes, semicolon. Semicolon is the one with the period and the little comma at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Semicolon. Shining through the mist, comma, from the underbrush, comma, or even, comma, somehow, comma, in the branches above, period. Should you even see them through the curtains of your windows, comma, as you've made it safely home, comma, take what comfort you can in this thought, period. I don't know if that's better, but that made, to me, it made more sense than what I read.
You're going to need to read that semicolon section again.
Okay. So, shining through the mists from the underbrush, or even somehow in the branches above.
Where's the semicolon?
Sorry, the semicolon's after polychrome. Okay. Should you see what can't possibly be polychrome eyes, semicolon, shining through the mists, comma, from the underbrush, comma, or even, comma, somehow, comma, in the branches above. I know that's a lot of commas, but
I'm going to disagree with your use of the semicolon, partially because I don't like semicolons, and the shining is referring to the polychrome eyes. So why are you breaking them up, saying that they're separate thoughts that are sort of connected with the semicolon?
Okay, maybe a colon would be better, because it's like giving an example, because it's what can't possibly
it's
be
only listing two things.
Polychrome eyes shining through the mist, because it's like we get that at the end, like it's connecting to it, like shining through the mist, or from the underbrush, or from the trees above, or from the branches above.
Oh, so you're trying to make it into a list?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's enough to really warrant a list.
There's three locations from the mist, the underbrush, or even the branches above.
And a list, you would want a colon, not a semicolon.
Okay, so sorry, it should be a colon then. I always kind of get tripped up by semicolons and colons. So
I just don't think that's list worthy. The way I do it is: should you see what cannot be polychrome eyes shining through the mists from the underbrush, comma, or somehow in the branches above, comma, or even through the gauze.
Through the mist and from the underbrush bugs me that there's not a comma between them, because it doesn't make any sense. Like I like through the mist from the underbrush. It's like I guess
the
maybe
mists
there's
are coming
mist,
from the underbrush.
I hate it. I absolutely fucking hate it. Like, yeah. It
Okay, we
bugs
might
me.
have to just agree to disagree on this one.
Yeah, like I just
At least in
hate
some
like
aspects.
yeah, I just hate how that's described. It's really irking me for some reason.
Yeah, he just keeps listing all the locations that you might see the polychrome eyes.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
Because of how wordy each one is, though, like earlier
Yeah.
on, it says the blame falls on the usual suspects: foxes, wild dogs, or teenagers with too much time. Like that, I'm fine with because they're very short things that are being listed after that. But because these are like they're all described. It's not just a
I see.
ABC.
Yeah, I see the problem. Yeah.
Where I would just put it into a normal sentence without trying to make it a list. Just break it up as you need, but.
So
see, and then I would probably go with a list that's like the mist, the underbrush, or the branches above.
Yeah, if they were simplified down to that, then yes.
Okay.
We came to a compromise.
Yay!
Yay.
Mikey's just like, and I helped. But yeah, the and that window thing just like I really hated that window verse, so I had to change it. It's like because it's like
What,
the way
gauze?
yeah, no, because where is it in the story? Or even through your gauze of your windows, should you be blessed enough? And there's no comments like should you be blessed enough to make it home or to make it safely home, comma, take what comfort you can in this thought. It's like just your gauze of your windows bugs me so much.
Easier way is just go, or even through the gauze of your windows.
Yeah, that honestly, that would probably make it better.
Yeah.
And then maybe
I'm assuming they're using gauze as like an old-timey word for curtains.
Yeah.
Like that kind of dates when this was said.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this was my major grammar inquisition because it just like it irked me so much.
I'm surprised I didn't have a note on that, honestly.
Weird.
Because I agree that something has to be done, and we figured it out, but still.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my grammar inquisition. So Mikey, D stands for evil.
Alright. So before the conjunction junction, I have a couple of run-on sentences
Yeah.
because this story has run-on sentences. The occasional report of large predators just after dusk or late at night, usually by the occasional hiker or party of campers in the Stillwood, residents of Lower Althea, nearest the woods like myself, know better than to try, receive the same tired reply from animal control. Period.
A section of that was bracketed out. But yes,
Yeah, but
I know
but
because
it's-
I have the same thing.
yeah. Well, how do you fix it since you have it?
It's you're in the spotlight, right? Keep the spotlight on him right now, not me.
How would
you
that sounded
fix
like
it?
very accused. Like, well, how would you fix it then?
Yeah, exactly. Did you write down a way to fix it, Mikey?
No.
Okay, then I'll do it. I actually moved the structure around a lot. So the way I rewrote this whole thing is residents of, and I actually took out the brackets entirely. Residents of Lower Althea, nearest the woods like myself, know not to bother reporting wolves to animal control. However, the occasional hiker or party of campers in the Stillwood give them occasional reports of large predators just after dusk or late at night, and they receive the same tired reply from animal control. So that's 2 sentenced out. Sorry, there was a period after animal control. I forgot to mention that. So halfway through.
Okay.
Also, did you seriously like pronounce that Althea, like Althea?
Althea, like
It's
Al Bundy.
Alethea. It's Alethea.
Dude, how would I know? There's no accent aigu on it like in French.
It's
I don't know how it's
okay.
supposed to be.
Okay.
I don't know these places. Where is it?
It's a neighborhood in Ichor Falls. A lot
Okay.
of
I
the
don't
Ichor
live in
Falls,
Ichor Falls. How would
That's
I
fair.
know?
a lot of the Ichor Falls.
You had to Google it.
No, I didn't have to Google it.
Okay.
Because a lot of the Ichor Falls I know I could be having it wrong, but the way like a lot of the Ichor Falls neighborhoods and wards and stuff like that are based off of Greek names, so like Elysium and what have you. So,
Okay.
but yeah, no, again, I could be saying it wrong, but like that's how I've always said Alethea. So
It's literally the first. When I read it, I just read it as a word. Me saying the word was the first time me trying to actually put together how to say the word.
gotcha. I'll just shut up now.
Excellent.
So onwards to the next run-on. A few years back, when the Bradleys, a little family brand new to the Falls, had their boy David go missing from their own backyard, never finding more than scraps of his jacket and a little blood at the edge of the forest, the official response was adamant. This was a kidnapping, not an animal attack. Period.
Damn,
That was commented out with a colon in there. I also have that one.
that's all common. Jesus Christ.
Yes. So, how do you fix it, Cameron Yellow?
Do not fix anything.
No.
No, I just put them in my notes to make sure that they were brought up, and then if you
Fair
didn't
enough.
have it, then I wouldn't have missed my opportunity to bring them up.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, there are 5 commas in there and a colon.
Mhm.
So, I believe this one I moved the words around a little bit, but not as much as the previous one. Mine is, a few years back, a little family brand new to the Falls, comma, the Bradleys, comma, had their boy David go missing from their own backyard, period. They never found more than scraps of his jacket and a little blood at the edge of the forest, period. The official response was adamant, colon, this was a kidnapping, not an animal attack, period. Realistically, that should be commaed out with quotations around that response, now that I think about it.
Mm-hmm. Because it's
My
a
nose.
statement by the authorities.
Yeah. That's how I would do it.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Alright. So, I guess onwards to my conjunction junction.
And next stop, Conjunction Junction. Doot, doot.
So, if you want to sleep at night this close to the forest, keep your doors locked tight and your shutters closed fast. If just to buy some peace of mind, to stop you from catching a glimpse of the Stillwood late at night. And should you somehow find yourself walking near, or God forbid, through the wood some evening, head home as quick as you can. And should you see what cannot be polychrome eyes shining through the mist from the underbrush, or somehow in the branches above, or even through your gauze of your windows, should you be blessed enough to make it safely home, take what comfort you can in this thought. Finn.
All of that was 3 sentences.
Yeah.
It's also funny because the start of your conjunction junction what is the start of my next grammar thing as well.
Yeah.
That's why I giggled a bit as soon as you started.
I also I got a giggle at the end there. It's like and take what comfort you can from this thought. Finn.
Yeah, I get no thought.
But yeah. So
And for those of us that are joining late in the episode and missed the first one, Mikey does conjunction junctions.
hang on a second. Okay. Sorry, that killed me.
Some people might skip through.
That's true.
Mikey does conjunction junctions to highlight the sentences in the story that starts with words that they shouldn't, like front butts, so's, and such. There's always better words to begin sentences with, and he tries to highlight the ones.
Why did that kill me so bad?
I don't know.
Oh.
Out of left field, I guess.
Yeah. All right. All right, gamer, you're up.
Okay. My first one's pretty simple. According to the regular surveys by the National Forestry Service, service should be capitalized because it's a name. National and Forestry are, but service is not. My next one is the start of Mikey's stuff there, and basically I just took that sentence and put a period in the middle of it. Because right now it is, so if you want to sleep at night this close to the forest, comma, keep your doors locked and your shutters closed fast, comma. But right there, I swapped from a comma to a period. So it'd be keep your doors locked tight and your shutters closed fast, period. If nothing else, just to buy some peace of mind. Because I had to change the start of that sentence a little bit.
Yes.
My next one is really simple fix too, but for my weird brain, it changes it a lot. This has come up a few times before. I don't know if you guys agree with me. Try to ignore the sounds of the night wind, comma, howling as it does, ellipses. It will only make your imagination run wild, comma, after all. So I removed the comma between run wild and after all, because this is how it sounds to me. It will only make your imagination run wild. After all, that's how it sounds to me. It sounds like it's beginning more, like it's about to say more, like after all, so blah 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 blah. You know, but it just goes after all. Period.
Give me a second here. So it will only make your imagination run wild after all. Yeah, it's weird that it has that comma.
You don't need to break that out.
Yeah,
it doesn't even really need the after all.
Yeah,
true. That's also true.
Yeah, that's really I thought you were going to talk about like getting rid of the comma between night wind and howling, because you don't technically need that either, that comma either. Like, try to ignore the sounds of the night wind howling as it does.
Well, but it's talking about the night wind. It's making the night wind the
presence.
Yeah, it's making it the subject of the sentence.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with that one. But yeah. The easiest way to fix it is just chop off after all and turn that comma into a period, for sure.
It's a gangrenous extension of the sentence. Remove it.
Or just actually write more words. Like, after all, it's just your imagination. It's totally not real or whatever, you know.
Sure.
It has to say something else after all. Because after all, something else has to go after all. After all, right?
Because we're only human, after all.
Yeah.
Don't put the blame on me. And is that it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then moving on to actual thoughts. So going back to that emphasis, the italics that emphasizes the words in there are no wolves in the Stillwood verse. I really liked it. And honestly, I didn't quite catch it until I looked down the comment. Before I read the story,
you cheated.
before,
you cheated.
I have to give the commenter due where it's due. On the site, Tom notes the emphasis. Notes the emphasis, and that's before I even read the story. I was like, oh, cool. And then I read that's interesting. And he even comments like, emphasis can make a story, and I have to agree with that. Like, reading through this. Funny? Oh, yeah.
In my final recommendations, I have the same thing quoted, but for a different reason.
Okay.
Because the way I read that, him saying that this is proof that emphasis can make a story, the emphasis is the repetition of the sentence.
Aw, gamer.
What? It is.
I know you're not wrong. Like, because like, okay, yeah, like the repetition, like
it's emphasizing that line, like you.
It's emphasizing that line, and so so you basically you didn't need the emphasis because of the certain words because you were getting that from the context of the story.
Yeah.
Whereas in the story, like because in the story, like just for people listening, it's the first one is there are no wolves in the Stillwood. Then there. Oh yeah. Sorry, because there are no wolves. The first one is completely like normal, like there are no wolves in the Stillwood, just a blank statement. And then the next one is there are no wolves in the Stillwood. Then the next one is there are no wolves in the Stillwood. And then the last one is there are no wolves in the Stillwood.
Mhm.
And I love that, like, sort of like subtle emphasis in each line, because it adds on like an extra little bit of dread or like emphasis to the story. And I really, and it for me, it popped up. And again, maybe because I read the comment before, so I was aware of it. But like,
did you catch the italics when you were reading through it before you cheated?
no, unfortunately, I didn't. I saw the comment first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you read it the same way I did. You read them as just straight sentences.
Yeah, but okay. I then saw the italic, and I was like, oh, that's really clever. Like, I like how that is, like, it pops up in each one to emphasize a certain part of that story. It's like we complain about the English language on the show a lot, but this is a really cool way of a cool example of using language, or like using literary language for this. I felt anyway. But
it's just funny that we read that guy's comment very differently, but kind of the same.
Yeah, so like, again, I really liked the there are no wolves in the Stillwood. There are no wolves in the Stillwood. There are no wolves in the Stillwood. It's not wolves that are killing people.
No.
Necessarily.
There's a king in the Stillwood, though.
There is. Actually, I think that might be my next thing here.
Here's a segue. Careful, the battery's low.
What?
I said, here's a segue then. Careful, the battery's low.
Okay.
Segways are the things that you stand on and lean forward and they move.
I was like, okay, sorry. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. So the occasional report of large predators just after dusk or late at night, usually by the occasional hiker or party of campers in the Stillwood. Oh God, those fools! Why doesn't anyone try to dissuade these people from camping in the woods, in those woods? like my first, like, as soon as I got to that part, I was like, wait, there are campers going into the Stillwood? No. And then we get to the next bit here. Residents of Lower Alethea, nearest the woods, like myself, know better than to try. But you'll let out-of-towners go traipsing in and spending the night in the woods, aware of the dangers they'll be in.
That's fine.
Nice.
The king's got to eat.
Okay. Honestly, like, this felt like almost like a horror movie thing. It's like
you know what it is?
What?
It's what's that Nick Cage movie we saw recently?
Oh, it's Willy's Wonderland, or Willy's Wonderland.
You know he's there, but they gotta feed him.
Yeah, the town is, so they're doing it on purpose. And again, it's Ichor Falls, so we've already like read in other stories in Ichor Falls that there's cults and groups within the town that like harbor the weirdness. So, honestly, as soon as I got to this part in the story about like hikers and campers going into the Stillwood, it sort of gave me this idea for like another story of being a park ranger that has to deal with the strange disappearances in the Stillwood, sort of like the missing 411 cases, which are strange and real cases of people going missing and sometimes being found under very strange and peculiar circumstances, if they're found at all, in national parks across America, like Yellowstone and such.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a whole document like about it, like of like people who were like the parents turned away for 2 seconds, looked over, and their child was gone. And then if and when they do find the child, they're found like 4 miles later up on a mountain side, missing their shoes, and apparently some mystery figure took them up there. And yeah, that's kind of like, it was giving me some weird, like, some just given the weird shit that is in the Stillwood, like the king or even these wolves, if they are not the same creature entirely, could be a cool story of like a search and rescue story turned into a search and retreat with extreme prejudice story.
Yeah.
like, all right, we gotta do a search through the Stillwood. Everyone keep your walkies on. Let's go. And then like five paragraphs later, let's get the fuck out of here. Jesus Christ. We're becoming part of because they'll become the next victims.
Mm-hmm.
And regarding the wolves themselves, so aside from the simple, like this simply being a cover up for the Stillwood King, I propose a new theory. What if they are werewolves, or even loup-garous, like French Canadian werewolves who can change as they please? Like they're not entirely bound to like to other like werewolf folklore, like the moon and stuff.
Wait, hang on. You're assuming that this is a cover up for the Stillwood King?
That was honestly like one of my ideas. I was like, no, I want to do something different than just like I don't want to just include the Stillwood King. So
the way that I thought of it, I didn't have a note of this, so I'll chime in now.
Sure.
Is basically, so the Stillwood is a time locked area, right?
Yeah, it's like a weird like time anomaly.
Yeah, and the Great Wolves of Virginia were made extinct over 100 years ago, right?
Oh shit, bro!
The king has some hunting dogs. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my god, it's the Stillwood King has hunting hounds that are just gray wolves from like 100. Oh my god, that's so fucking good. Damn it, that's a cool one. Okay, well again, ignoring like the connection with the Stillwood King.
Yeah.
What if like since it kind of like as the story goes, like there's no like the way it's described. So yeah, going back to my loup-garou idea. So yeah, loup-garous are French Canadian werewolves, like in folklore and stuff like that. They can change they can change their form as they please. Sometimes not even as wolves, but like as other beasts. And I mean, a bunch of French settlers moved out of Canada, like off the Canadian coastline, to what is now Louisiana after the British pushed them out of like after the British showed up and just pushed them out of their settlements. So why not say a few decided to plop down in a certain spooky location in West Virginia on their way south?
Yep.
Like what if it's a group of old Falls folk who have been cursed by the power of the Shining One, perhaps, or even mutated by the old chemical disaster? Like maybe it's like a old folk magic, or maybe it's some kind of like scientific mutation. Like they become werewolves as a result of mutation. What if the narrator telling this story right now is one of them? Because it does kind of leave off. It's like he's there the whole time. It's like as a local of Lower Alethea, and like they know that they know it's not, there's no wolves in there that's causing these disasters and stuff. And then at the very end, it's like there are no wolves in Stillwood.
But they know that there's something in there.
Mm-hmm. Like they know there's the locals definitely know there's something up. So my proposal is that the locals are in on it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's cool to see it too.
But yeah, I do like your idea of like, because it does mention at the end, like, or at the beginning, like the gray wolves of West Virginia have been extinct for over 100 years. But since the Stillwood is sort of time displaced, what if there's just a pack of them still roaming around as if it's 100 years ago?
Yeah,
sort of like a primeval sort of like situation where like there's weird time anomalies that pull creatures from a distant time period in,
which kind of makes the there are no wolves in the Stillwood kind of
false.
Wrong though. Yeah, unless it's talking about in this time, like
there are no still wolves now.
Time. Yeah, but technically in the Stillwood you're not there now.
Yeah,
because you're elsewhere. It's a technicality.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's an interesting take as well.
There's only one issue though that I have.
Mm-hmm.
How are the eyes in the branches above?
That also, that's kind of where I went with like loup-garou, is like they're like popping up from the thing. Although yeah, it's sort of like supposed to insinuate like it's people are chalking up to wolves like attacking these people, but it's like, come on guys, we all know like all us local folk, it's not wolves in there. There's something worse in there. So it still could be the Stillwood King, or it could be yeah, so we have a couple of theories. So either it's a cover up from the locals, that's the Stillwood King himself actually just doing all this. Potentially the Stillwood King has a pack of hunting hounds, i.e. old gray wolf, like large gray wolves from like from a century ago. Mm-hmm. It's a couple of the townsfolk are loup-garous and can shapeshift and grab people and run around and whatnot, and they're covering up that way. Was there another one? Or it's something else, I guess, is the final
Yeah.
theory. It's anomalous. It's like it's not wolves. But it's something.
Hmm.
Did Ichor Falls have the Thunderbird?
No, it didn't.
Oh.
Well, in regards to the eyes in the trees, and also in regards to it saying there's no wolves in the Stillwood is this weird place of God knows what kind of magic. I don't know why I said magic again. I gotta stop doing that.
You're A. You're
God
A.
damn it.
It's all your A's.
Yeah, really. Either way, there is magic in there, and who knows what magic can do over an extended period of time in this time-locked area. For all you know, these wolves aren't exactly mundane wolves anymore, and they're able to jump up in a tree, you know?
Yeah, perhaps they have become more than... Maybe they've got, like, squid wolves. They're just, like, giant, like, tentacled wolves that just, like, lash onto the tops of trees and stuff.
Could be anything.
Or it is the Stillwood King. And considering he's mostly fungus, it's like the Super Mario Bros. Where there's fungus everywhere.
But he can, like, see through the fungus?
Yeah. And so
exactly like the king.
It's a fleshscape situation, but with fungi.
Or dogscape. Wolfscape.
That is the best option.
The wolfscape. It's wolves all the way down.
Yes. God, freaking dogscape.
Can't escape it.
No, you can't escape it.
Nah. I like how we don't actually get there's a lot of insinuation about it, like through that emphasis in the story, but we don't. It lends to a lot of theory crafting as to like what exactly are these wolves.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, that's my actual thoughts. So, Mikey, D stands for evil.
All right. So my first actual thought is where I looked up something because I wanted to see if I could find an image. And that is for polychrome eyes.
Okay.
And I couldn't find anything that, like any simple image with a Google search. But polychrome essentially just means varied coloring. So,
Yeah, that's like pearlescent.
Yeah. So basically, hazel eyes would probably fit the bill.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I think what they're going for is like the eyes that like when you shine a light, like how animals like their eyes shine in the darkness.
That's what I assumed. I didn't know what that word was, but that's what first came to mind.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a grammar thing. That's called something else.
I mean, I'm looking up polychrome eyes now, like on image Google. Yeah, it's not exactly accurate. Again, it's sort of you could use it, but I guess it's not exactly the best descriptor for it.
Mm-hmm.
The tapetum lucidium is a reflective surface that causes the eyes of animals to look like they're glowing in the dark.
Okay, so it's where is that? Should you see what cannot be? Whatever you said for what?
That word that's way worse than polychrome eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tapetum lucidium.
Tatum lucidium eyes. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe don't use that one. It's It's a little too complicated.
Yeah, so just something interesting there. My next actual thought is that this story actually reminded me of a joke that I memorized about 15 years ago.
Okay.
It's an ice fishing joke. So, a man goes out onto the ice, and he starts drilling a hole. And he hears this big booming voice that says, "There are no fish under that ice." He looks around and shrugs it off and starts drilling again, and he hears again the voice booming saying, "There are no fish under that ice." So this time he says to himself, "God, is that you?" And then silence. So he continues digging his hole. And then the third time, he hears the voice, "There are no fish under that ice." So this time, the guy yells at the top of his lungs, "God, is that you?" And to which he gets a reply, "No, it's the arena manager."
Wow. Nice. I wonder where you're going with it.
I thought this was going to be creepy. It's like, there are no fish under the ice. There are no fish under that ice. And then like the final one when he breaks through, it's like, there are no fish under the ice. And it's like, I thought it was going to be like
exact thing.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like a creepy like foreboding thing. It's like, no, it's just he's on in a freaking arena.
I thought it was going to be like there's a guy under the ice trying to tell him to get like to not hit him with the drill. Like, there's no fish under here, but get me out of here. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I like that. That was a lot of fun. I was not for some reason I was not expecting that outcome.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
He didn't specifically say he was out on a lake or nothing.
Yeah. He just went out on the ice.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. And is that all your actual thoughts?
Yes.
Okay. So, Gamer, you're up for the second time.
Okay. So, I kind of chimed in. Well, I did chime in with this. I don't normally read the comments. The first one caught my eye as I was finishing the story because it was very short and I couldn't help but read it. And it summarized my thoughts quite well because Tom said this is proof that emphasis can make a story. I agree because each time it says it, it's showing how the residents are themselves believe the lies that they're told by the authorities on all this, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think the story would hold up, even without the repeating quotes, but it was a nice flavor to put on top of it, basically.
Yeah.
That's honestly all I have for notes until final thoughts.
Okay. Yeah, the reason why we did a two-part here, or like a two-story thing here, because these ones are both really short.
Mm-hmm.
So, on to final thoughts. I liked this little yarn. It's foreboding, sinister, and mysterious. I recommend it. And as always, there are no wolves in the Stillwood. Mikey, D stands for evil.
I'm going to give this a partial recommendation.
You bet. No, okay.
Just because, like, it does make you ask the question of what is it then if it's not wolves? But then
That's a bad thing.
Well, that's where it gets points.
Okay.
And you have to read more to find out about the Stillwood King and all that, but there's no direct line to the Stillwood King.
You do and you don't. Like, I think you could read this without reading any other Ichor Falls stories, and it would be an interesting little like creepy. Honestly, I think this captures some of the creepy mystery of Ichor Falls in its mood. But
it could also be used as a primer to the Stillwood King.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's sort of dependent on you seeing the italicized words.
I disagree.
Oh.
Because I didn't see those damn things at all, and I still got the emphasis in a very different way.
But a way that worked for the story.
Yeah.
Like, you inserted the emphasis by yourself by reading those sentences.
The story has its own emphasis. It's just, the way it's supposed to be read by catching the italics is the specific italicized words are the emphasis. For me, reading it, the repetitiveness of the same statement is the emphasis. It's the emphasis that The people of this area are saying, no, there's no wolves here. Like, this shit's going on, but nope, there's no wolves here. Like, it doesn't matter where the emphasis is. The emphasis is the sentence itself. That's the way I saw it.
Okay.
Actually, we didn't get your thoughts on that, Mikey. Did you read it and notice the italics or no?
I did notice the italics.
You did or did not?
Did.
Oh, okay. So you're the first one who did. Congratulations.
I was gonna say it's like I was actually half expecting. He's like, I didn't even read the "There Are No Wolves in Stillwood" based on what happened with the Blue Man.
yeah.
He's just like, I didn't read those.
Just ignored the poem.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this you can easily glance at it and see, yeah, it's the same sentence.
Or
but
is it?
It's the same sentence. It's the same sentence. It's the same sentence. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I figured there was some weird trick to it, so I paid a bit of attention.
Nice.
That's very smart of you.
So.
So I think I'm done.
Okay. And then we have Gamer.
Well, I think I like unintentionally cut you off because you're saying that you feel you need to be able to catch the emphasis, otherwise you don't get the story. Is that basically what you were going to say?
Well, it's the wolves at the end seems to have a more of an impact, at least from when I read it. Because the no and then the in being emphasized, I was like, okay. But when it actually got to the wolves, there are no wolves specifically because of the emphasis. It's like,
So it's saying there's something in there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And that does give it a different context, like reading all of that, for sure. That's why I was angry that I missed all that.
Fair.
We did run the gambit on this, because I completely missed it entirely. Cultist, you missed it on your first read, but noticed it via...
No, okay, I want to point out, I did not actually read the story before I saw that comment. I saw the comment first. Like, I skimmed, like, there are no wolves in... Like, that's all I saw, was there are no wolves in Stillwood. And then I just happened to look down the comments, because this isn't very long. It basically did not take up the entire page, so I just happened upon the first couple of comments. And somebody said, I saw somebody said, emphasis is everything, or emphasis can make a story. I was like, okay.
So you were looking for emphasis on your first read. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's fine.
I mean, yes, exactly. Yeah, I
It's fine.
So, partial recommendation then, was that, Mikey?
Yep.
Okay. And I can also understand, because we did comment a lot on the run-on sentences and stuff as well, but... So, Gamer, your recommendation.
I'm going to recommend it. Yes, there was run-ons, and I had to completely rewrite and move sections of a sentence on opposite sides of the sentence, and then break it apart and do all kind of grammar kung fu with that. But it didn't really take away from the enjoyment of the story. Maybe it's because it's connected to the Stillwood King, and I'm pretty sure the Stillwood King was my favorite story.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Going into this, I read the title and I'm like, heck yeah. Now don't fuck up the Stillwood King here.
And it didn't fuck up the Stillwood King?
It didn't, no. I enjoyed the story. I feel like the story says a lot without needing to say a lot, if you know what I mean. It's short, but in that short time, it very clearly gets its point across and even explains the headpiece of the people in the area. The head place, rather.
The head, headspace.
Headspace, yeah, there you go. Comparatively, this story has 500 more characters than the Damp Lady, but it has so much more content than you can type in 500 characters.
I was literally after we were done recommending, I was like, we actually got hit a really decent dichotomy here between the two short stories that were submitted for the Ichor Falls stuff, because they're both pretty short. Like, I mean, yeah, like you said, like 500 words more for the Wolves of the Stillwood. But this one does so much more with what it has than the Damp Lady. It's an interesting dichotomy. Like, you can do a short story for like a short, like do a compelling short horror story, and this is an example of that.
For sure. Like every sentence just like drips with content. Where in the Damp Lady, ironically enough, each sentence does not drip.
It's pretty dry.
Yeah, it's really dry.
I feel like a dick about to say this, but it's like the Goofus and Gallant of short horror stories. Like, don't do what Goofus does, like what the Damp Lady does, but do what Gallant does, like the Stillwood King, like the Stillwood Wolves. Like, because Goofus and Gallant is like a sort of like an old cautionary, like 50s or 70s like video, like thing that they put on TV for like kids and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, don't cross the street without looking both ways. Don't be like Goofus and do that. He'll get hit by a car.
He will be murdered.
Yeah, exactly. Or don't do like Goofus does and used gasoline to dry your clothes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, legitimately in the 50s they used gasoline to clean their clothes because it would dry faster.
Oh, okay, that's smart.
The problem is it would light on fire when in contact with a spark.
Oh yeah, that's not as smart.
Oh god. Or no, like here's the worst part about it. They'd clean their, this is completely off topic, but they'd clean their clothes in gasoline and then dry them with an iron. A heated element.
Yeah.
And then we're shocked when they were suddenly on fire.
And that iron's really hot. Weird.
Wow. Yeah. No. So sorry. Going back to like it's sort of that kind of dichotomy, and I don't mean to be mean to.
Of course not.
The person who did the Damp Lady, but it's just like, yeah, the Wolves of Stillwood was a much better like take on like a short horror story.
There's just a lot more content in the small amount of words we're given.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I did do this, was pick out each sentence and see what each sentence gives, but it feels like every sentence that's said is said for a reason and it goes somewhere.
Yeah.
Where the first one, it felt like it was an improvised story just to get the kid to eat his greens. So there was no real connection aside from the end that you kept talking about. There's no real reason for things, you know?
Yeah, like I think what it is like this story feels like well connected. Like it feels purposefully connected to the Ichor Falls lore.
Yeah, this one's hardwired to the Ichor Falls lore, while the other one has like one bar.
It felt like an afterthought. It's like, oh yeah, I need to connect this to Ichor Falls.
Yeah, kind of.
I'll leave this little bit at the end. And again, that sounds really mean, but like that's just our opinion on it. It's just like, especially when we have them side by side, it kind of it makes it even worse. So,
I'll say this: it was no Spyro.exe, at least.
Oh yeah, that's true.
What would you say is like most painful one we've read? Probably that one.
I mean,
I know I got really angry at it. I don't remember why. I've purged that from my memory banks. I'm not a
Happy
robot.
Appy was pretty bad.
I never read that one.
You were spared.
Yeah.
Mikey remembers that. Or he might not. He might have been drinking while we were doing that. I know I was drinking some ciders when we did that episode.
It's a good way to get through it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we've had some bad ones. We've had some bad apples on the show. This show. But yeah.
Back to the wolves, though.
And I would not just also like I might count this as like probably my least favorite Ichor Falls story, like Damp Lady, my least favorite Ichor Falls story. I would not consider it the worst story we've done on the show.
No, not at all.
By a long shot. I just want to point that out.
It's not a bad story. It's just a very predictable story. No,
yeah,
it doesn't really go anywhere or try to do anything specific. It's just, again, I've said this multiple times. It's just a parent saying this to get their kids to eat their greens.
Yeah,
there's no like weirdness to it.
Yep.
But back to the wolves. I'll recommend it, as I said. I enjoyed it. We've been talking about multiple different reasons as to what's actually in the woods, if it is wolves or what have you. It was just a fun read.
Yeah. So, I think full or 2.5 recommendations, since I think Mikey gave a partial recommendation. Yeah, you bastard. No, it's fine. Honestly, I was surprised because I wasn't sure. I'm never really quite sure how our different opinions are going to react to the story. It's sort of like a Russian roulette a little bit. It's like, how bad am I going to be like antagonistic toward my fellow co-hosts on the story?
Yeah.
But regardless, so you can check them out at the Creepypasta, like all the Ichor Falls stories, both submitted and otherwise. You can check them out at Ichor Falls, a quiet community website. That'll do it for this episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below. This gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. We're all on Twitter, so you can send us messages there. With Mikey, who's at the E stands for evil. Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W because his name is very long.
Yeah.
And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, Ichor Falls stories, spooky SCPs, cryptids, the like. We'll check them out and discuss them on the show. If you'd like to help support the show financially, you can go to Patreon, look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. For our patrons that are already helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you all the same, because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void. And without your authorship, without your stories that you write and share online, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.